See that?
Oh, you're not on Margaret.
I don't think she's on the committee.
I
Is she?
think she is.
No, I think Ryan is. I mean, Ryan and Ronnie for some reason. Why do I have Ryan?
No,
and Ronnie?
Ron is not. I think it's Margaret. Yeah, Margaret.
Is it Margaret?
Mm.
Oh, goodness, I didn't send her,
I think she is.
I didn't send her agenda. Why did I think Ryan?
I don't know.
He's on trucks and then go on.
Maybe Tom knows. Is Margaret part of the committee?
Yes, she intends to be remote.
Okay. Well, then I'll give her a few minutes to jump on since I missed her on the agenda. Why did I do that? I was thinking she was on. Let me know if she pops on mic too. Give her a few more minutes. We'll get started here. So the first thing is that Crystal's not going to be able to be with us today. She had some family emergencies. And Ryan is working, so Ryan's not going to be able to be here. The first thing is if we have any follow-up or feedback on the letter that went out. I do have some clarifications for you guys to share if anyone comes to you guys. I had somebody in the 5th ward that was concerned because she didn't have the money to do the repairs for her sidewalk. However, she didn't have a sidewalk in front of her house, so it doesn't apply to her because she she doesn't live with a public sidewalk in front of her house. So if anyone comes to you, regarding, unless they plan on putting a sidewalk there, if you don't have a sidewalk in front of your house, the current law doesn't apply to you. It only applies if you have a public sidewalk. So that's something that probably needs a little clarification. So has anybody else got any feedback from the flyer that went out regarding the sidewalk?
Yeah, I don't have feedback, but I just, by walking, I can see the sidewalks. A few of them I have seen being repaired. I do have to say that.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yes,
Yeah.
but not a lot.
Well,
Maybe there'll be more in the fall, but anyhow, it's not good enough.
yeah, well, we know that initially it's never going to be good enough, but if it's more than what was prior to the letter, I think that, the education part might have, provoked some individuals to a wake-up call on their responsibilities, especially if they were sidewalks.
And the letter was quite explanatory, so I haven't had any constituents reaching out to me. I feel the letter said everything.
Oh, I agree.
So
I agree.
that was right now.
Someone had very good skill who put that letter together, Mr. Hoffman, to be very informative. So that being said, the second portion is going to figure out a plan of attack, action plan, however we want to put it together on attacking the sidewalk law. And there's some components that need to be put into place before we can move some things forward. So one of the components is identifying sidewalk districts, for the law. So whether we break them into 3, break them all 5 wards, however we feel as a committee to do sidewalk districts. Secondly, would be figuring out how we're going to sustain. Well, secondly, after the districts are done, what districts are going to be prioritized in terms of the need that, in terms, how would we do it? If it's a number system, it's a rating system, but what one needs to be addressed, sooner than later. And the third component would be figuring out the assessment, how the assessment would work to apply to the property. So the financial assessment. So we would have to bring, I was hoping Ryan would be here because Ryan's a finance guy, that aspect into, for sustainability too, the assessment, the cost, and the sustainability cost for maintenance. Because what we ask for today may not be enough in 5 years. So how are we going to work that in to the schedule, the fee schedule, in terms of, and again, I think we need to put some property owners at ease that if you don't have a sidewalk, I don't think this is going to apply to you because you don't have a sidewalk. So your maintenance is not going to be there. And I don't think it is appropriate that we're taxing somebody without a sidewalk. Because it's, how do you do that? If you don't have a sidewalk, if we're going to do an assessment on someone's property that has 3 spots, how do you do an assessment on someone who has no space? So it's just not going to be practical that we're going to be, there is some streets, I know in the 5th, I think there's some in the 3rd. I think each ward has part of the ward that doesn't have sidewalks. Some have more than the other. So I think, that needs to be emphasized and relaxed to the property owner that, they're not going to be part of this, law unless they create, to create the sidewalks. So those are some of the things that Crystal has relayed to me. So it's time frame wise, it looks, if we can dig hard into this, it's going to be probably 3 to 4 months of trying to put these into play before we can present something to the council. So my thought is if we can break up some volunteers on the committee to attack some things, whether it's the finance side of it, figure out the mapping for the best way to do district, a couple of variations for districts, and the assessment, again, I'm leaning toward Ryan because he seems to be the financial guy and he's pretty in tune on that stuff. So any thoughts?
Yeah, so about I would be probably interested for the districts. I was thinking to go probably with the most traveled ones, the most used areas, to make those a priority.
Well, we know that one probably, right off the bat, right? One probably can be a business district, right? Because, that's a district that's already identified as a district. And then we break it down into residential, but then again, there's some businesses that aren't on in a traditional business.
So you're saying to have, what does Ithaca do? They have the 5 districts. I didn't know it's like the business district, the school district, residential district, is that what?
Ithaca broke it down, but they had a different, their landscape is a little different. right? So, but they initially, I thought they broke it down in priority, I thought.
Well, that's what I was
but-
thinking, like the most used, the priorities, so, we're trying to.
But I think, but either way, we do priorities. So I think we do because I think this is the issue though. So say, Glenwood Boulevard, right, has 15 properties, right? But Amber's work has 15 properties. They're two different separate, they, because logistically, how are you gonna put that in the same ward? I think if we do districts first, and then saying this district has the most as a priority. Because if we try to do it by district, every ward has issues. 10 to 15. I mean, it could be equal, every ward could have equal problems. So I think initially we need to do the districts, establish the districts, because we're gonna have to eliminate, best thing, we can do is look at the map, right? And eliminate those streets that don't have sidewalks. That can still be,
Well, that's easy to do.
Right.
I'm thinking about so what do you call each district, the 5 districts of Ithaca? Do they have like a name, what?
I don't remember, I don't remember the name.
I don't think I saw that either, maybe
Yeah.
Crystal will know this.
They're just numbered,
Yeah, right. Like 1,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
yeah. Yeah.
Or why don't we go with the 5 wards we have? And each ward has subcategories of the most traveled versus this, what are they called? The sliver lots, the vacant lots, and we have, we don't have to copy another municipality, we can also do our own.
Well, I
And
think,
have,
I think for,
categorize it that way.
I think for, really something that's simple and already established, I think going by wards, because again, we're going by numbers and it's kind of same thing as we're calling it wards, but it's we're calling them numbers. So if we go by our wards,
Mhm.
and then prioritize the
Each
wards
ward.
that way,
Yeah,
Right.
that's, I like that. Idea. Because now we also separated, we did, so the wards are nicely done, separated.
because, yeah, each ward also, because Amber's ward has a hospital, which is, that's a big chunk of, we have the schools.
Yeah.
You
We
know,
have the schools. up there.
so that, those are big chunks, of sidewalks that need to be addressed,
Mhm.
especially, the hospital and some of the school areas.
Each
So-
ward has its importance of what is more or less, and I do think that each ward also has lots that are vacant, the built houses that run down, so I think it will be pretty easy to figure this out,
Oh, yeah, once we establish which ones can be priority.
Mhm.
And then we, then once we do that, right, and then I guess we come up with a map, right, we just do the map, because then we're gonna have to eliminate, Jocelyn, Paddock.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, right, I think we do the
The rest
map,
of them
eliminate
are-
them, green, red is no, green is good, you got a go area, on each of the ward, because we were having it broken up, so I think what you're saying is probably a good idea, because our mapping is already broken up into wards.
Yes, and then we'll have like orange, like streets, for example, if we go according to DOT, streets that they're a dead end or they don't go anywhere. We have to. I feel if we go with the most used, certain streets don't have, they end somewhere. There's not a go through, so those streets are not probably going to be a priority.
Well, I think when we come to priority, we kind of do a rating rubric, right? So, when we'll sit down and have like a 5-point rubric, so we can look at each ward established on, certain criteria, one could be, footpath, right? The highest used, you know,
Exactly.
could get a number, and then the worst sidewalks, you know, in terms of, you know, where they're dangerous, you know, could get a number. And then we can determine, you know, with that rubric on applying the priority. Right, so then it becomes, you know, the numbers adding up a certain way.
That's a good thing that's important to think about it. I like, what you just said, we have those classifications.
Right. But I think, you know, I mean, I've seen some rubrics that, you know, I think we just keep it simple, you know, the 5 main important things we're looking for the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You know, and that's in terms of, you know, the area, you know, of importance for, you know, safety and improving that. And I think, you know, high use should be right up there, you know, and then it goes down to, you know, what is the status of the sidewalks right now? We do a rating system on that.
Mhm.
Good, poor, in danger, unsafe. You
Is
know,
that something though, that in order to grade them, I feel more comfortable if the code officer kind of. I mean, I'm not an expert in sidewalks. I feel I'm not an engineer. I would like to know somebody more that has more knowledge of that and say, yes, this is really a bad one. Or
well, I think, you know, we can go by that, you know, that letter and, you know, some
Yeah.
photos and some things, and we definitely can bring Craig into this, you know, and I know there
maybe
is,
for a consultation
right,
for someone.
yeah, and I know that we have to, you know, in the back of my mind, I keep hearing that once we as a city identify some of these with unsafe, and if someone, once we identify them, you know, there is some liability possibility, but that could go anytime, I guess.
Well, eventually we'll have to face that. I mean.
Right, that's why I
can't
think
refer
that
it as-
safety could be a higher number in terms of addressing that issue.
The only thing is actually doing that, you need to have somebody that's a walker, and actually, it's a lot of work. I mean, I do a lot of, I walk 5th ward, 1st ward. In order to do the entire city, it's not an easy.
Yeah, and I think that,
identify them. I'm willing to put a lot of work towards it, but I may need them help.
yeah, I know Troy did something, they got a group together, they trained them. And they kind of sent them out into the street to take photos and to really document. You know, I don't know if that's something,
Volunteers, you mean? Like they have volunteers from each
Volunteer.
ward?
yeah, the volunteers.
I mean, it'd be nice for each ward. I can take action towards the 5th, maybe another ward, but the entire city might be a little bit too much for me.
Well, so I think once if we determine, you know, the districts, and then we ask for, I mean, the only really way we're gonna do this is, you know, without taxing, you know, more in terms of asking for funds, is to do volunteers, train the volunteers.
Or it can be other council members if they're interested.
Sure,
But they,
yeah.
you know, that's the easiest because they represent the board. So,
I mean, it'd be, if, you know, if we had a tie-in to, and I know there was, you know, groups, I think Michael, was there a group that was doing some things down with the Silica at one point? From the school, from Columbia or something, if we could tie in some internships.
Yeah, as part of the waterfront, climate adaptive design work, the consultants that were handling that had educated and used an app to document the species and different plants and things like that in the area.
Yeah, I mean, if we could tie into someone in, you know, environmental or engineering in Columbia, or some, you know, some kind of interim about, you know.
At the college, I think they have an environmental studies
At
program
Honey Green, yeah,
for Hudson Valley.
yeah, either one, you know, I think that, especially when they can get credit, you know, as the project, so, I think the best thing is to do is do the plan, the action plan, and attack it, that way,
Dominic, Malachi is online and has his hand up. Just a plan.
Okay, go ahead, Malachi. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mike. How you guys doing?
Good.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, no, just my question is just, I mean, it's coming back to just what I was talking to you about, before. Just the, the burden of having an individual who's, may not can afford, dealing with the sidewalk. And then, I know that you were saying that them being taxed was going to be, one of or the actual solution. And I don't know. I'm just wondering if there is just anything else in place that can assist with something like that, instead of, putting that burden on an individual who may not be able to sustain.
So I think that one is, it's not really a tax, it's a fee. And it all depends on, and the fee is going to be dependent on how many sidewalks you have assessed in front of your house. So if you only have two slabs, you're not going to pay as much as in terms of the assessment for that fee. And the work is going to be done, contract out and be done. So, and then that's going to be faded into, if they don't pay the fee, it goes into the taxes and in that regard. Now, in terms of funding, one of the things, and I think Michael might be able to speak to some of it, they're making, they have some initiatives with, keeping homeowners and repairing certain things for homeowners. I don't know if Sidewalks is part of that funding, or you guys got was $500,000?
No, that was for major repairs, I think, like
Major repairs?
engineering, right? Roofs and basements and stuff. But let me intercept on this. According to the Ithaca model, from where I have a copy here, is the annual maintenance fee for non-developed lots and silver lots is $0. Low foot traffic lots is $70. So Malachi, in a year, you'll get the fee for $70 if you are in low traffic. For example, Western Street, Prospect, I would think they are low traffic. And for other lots, it's 140. That's what Ithaca does. We
Right.
don't know what we're gonna have. But it's not gonna be a fee or an extra $3,000, from what I understand.
No,
That you're gonna
It's
have
gonna be
to
spread
pay
out,
in one
yeah.
year, and then it really spreads over years. And I also, though, in response to Malachi's concern, which I really think is valid, I think we should be I think we should try to either with grants or raise some funds for people that actually can document and show us that they cannot afford any more increases in their taxes. And maybe we can help them that way.
well, I think this could be also a program, just thinking outside the box, that if HTDPA can get some money in their coffers, they can run, programs for property owners that are income eligible, and this, and, for repairs, to maintain, so it doesn't fall a certain way, whether it's going to be, the facades, the paints, the sidewalks, and offer that program. I know other municipalities have that, where they put, money away, for homeowners that, fit a certain, quite especially seniors, because seniors are fixed.
Right.
And that, there might be a certain percentage, but it's totally doable in comparison than a complete payment.
It's
So-
definitely important to explore and, how. like-
Yeah, I mean, as this goes forward, I think, I think it's only gonna be, now, but you gotta remember though, this is gonna be for those prior to law, right? Because, after the law, the contract, the city's gonna be doing the repairs. Unless homeowners decide to do it on their own, and they get credit, for any work that's done, prior, say, for example, someone's selling their house and they're like, oh my God, we gotta do the sidewalk. So if they do that sidewalk, they do it correctly, they do it under code, they do everything, you're gonna get a credit, for doing that sidewalk. Even though it's maybe not be slated for 2 years, they're gonna be able to get credit, for fixing that sidewalk. And that's the same thing right now. Anyone that's going to be proactive and fix their sidewalks, they're gonna be able to get a credit for whatever they pay for, for that assessment. So they're not gonna be hit twice.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and I don't know if you're on earlier, Malachi, but yeah, if there's no public sidewalk in front of the house, then it doesn't apply to that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I heard you. Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Don, for that. Thank you, guys.
Is there any other thoughts? I mean, I think you feel like you're comfortable working with maybe Ryan with figuring out the assessment thing, and then I'll work with Vicky with the
map.
mapping, because we kind of did a little bit of that when we did the
I have also another thought. I really don't want to wait. I feel a little anxious about waiting all this time for the laws and everything. Is there a way we can create our own one law that says any new home buyer has to repair the sidewalk according to code? Like, can we have
prior to buying it?
No, once they buy it, they have, for example, 60 days to repair the sidewalk.
The responsibility.
Yeah, I just don't, until all this, in the meantime, we're selling properties left and right, and these sidewalks, they're continuing being a problem. I mean, I see some properties there, houses of $1 million, $2 million, and they're not fixing the sidewalk. And it really makes me angry. And I feel, why don't we have until all this takes place to,
But that would be a crystal question.
I know in the past,
what, Malachi?
well, I'm saying I know in the past that it was a majority of the city's responsibility for the sidewalk. So I think, the way that we approach it has to be, in a way that's, suitable and I want to say just, I don't know. It's kind of, I think it, when you hear about the sidewalk, especially being from here and not having to be responsible for the sidewalk, and then when it just comes at you, I mean, I know the letterhead came out like in July, but somebody who's from Hudson and this is just all a new thing. I don't know if the approach was too fast, or I don't know.
What do you mean new thing now?
Well,
it's always been the property owner's responsibility. It's never been the city has no, the city, it's always been the property owner's responsibility to maintain their sidewalk ever since I lived here.
Okay, so I was misinformed then. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the city has, pedestrians have an easement, but it's always been.
And I think it's in most municipalities, it's usually just the homeowner is responsible of their sidewalk.
Yeah, the property owner, whoever is property is.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like somebody has all this money to buy a house in Hudson, and especially the very expensive homes, they can just fix their sidewalk. I know they're,
Oh yeah. Oh, those
fixing this and fixing that, off the sidewalk, and then people fall left and right. I mean, I have fallen the sidewalk.
No, absolutely. Now I'm saying absolutely if they have the money for it. No, that's different.
The flyer letter that went out was nothing new. It was taken from our code that's already been established. So there was no law change, nothing changed. We just put it in, one-page kind of thing to bring people up to speed. And like I said, maybe some thought that the city they weren't fixing their sidewalks, that they thought the city was responsible. So I think it was probably a good idea to send a flyer out, to reintroduce the code.
But it is true, Malika, it is a very confusing subject and a lot of people talking to them. And actually I suggested the whole letters because a lot of people didn't know, maybe some don't know. Whose responsibility is it? And I feel the letter made it clear. It is the homeowners, but in case things go bad, everybody can get sued, I guess. I mean, people get sued regardless. That's the world we live in, even if you don't do anything. So I don't know.
I mean,
it's good to just, I feel we need to put some extra pressure.
Well, I'm really appreciative of even, the information, because like I said, being from Hudson, I always was, I wasn't aware and I was misinformed about the sidewalks myself. So if I'm misinformed, I'm sure, other people are misinformed about it. So no, this is good.
well, it's the same thing. And one of my pet peeves is also, sidewalk removal, from snow. I mean, people wait and it becomes really super dangerous. And, and that's,
Which again, they have 24 hours, right?
after snowstorm. Yeah.
Right.
But, then if they don't do it, it turns into ice and the people are walking in the street. And, that's one of my pet peeves is that, and what Catskill does is they go and they have they contract out. And if it's not done, the homeowner gets charged, each time. $125 each time.
I was aware of that. I was definitely aware of the, the snow removal, but just the fixing of the, the foundation, I wasn't aware of. But the removal, the snow removal, I definitely, I was aware of that part.
Okay. Well, thank you, Malcolm. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you
Well,
for clearing up.
So unfortunately, the timeframe, we're gonna have to, go with what's in front of us in terms of, because this, Krista did say that, it's gonna take us maybe about 3 months, and, she's optimistic with 3 months and maybe 4 to 5 months before it gets, in front of the council. So,
but then even after that, we need to have quotes from DPW. We need to have assessments. I mean, it's a lot more.
well, I think that if we go and, we involve, we're gonna, for you and I, for the mapping, we're gonna have to involve Rob, in terms of his thoughts on, how to, if we do it in the 5th Ward, because he might have some insight on some of the streets that we don't have insight on. In terms of, the sidewalks and things like that. And then with you and Ryan, reaching out to.
Is Rob or Peter for this? I'm not sure. I'm confused about.
Well, either one. I mean, Rob's more on the ground, in terms of, I mean, we can invite both of them. You know what I mean? It might be better just to invite both of them, have a even meet with them. We can meet with that. Okay. And, bring, we'll bring the map and say, this is our thoughts for the district, and what's your thoughts kind of deal. And I'm thinking with the assessment, you might have to, involve, Teresa and Rob, because Rob will know in terms of, in repair supplies and how that's done, and what costs are now for repairs, in terms of sidewalks, and how that works in escalating.
And Margaret can maybe think more about the legal aspect of it. Maybe where
the what?
The legal aspect of it.
Like, oh yeah, I mean, I imagine somehow this is going to have to be. Yeah, I mean, she can maybe work with Crystal, and somehow I think this is probably is going to end up maybe somewhere in legal. I don't know, unless we have that.
Yeah.
Because Chris was with us but I think definitely, it should be on Margaret's radar in terms of, the legal side of it. Because she's already, done some research on certain codes and everything on it, so.
Okay.
But, so I think would be, kind of the start. Is kind of getting a picture of what a law like this would look like. And I think one of the things that we also need to project and is how it's going to benefit, and it might not look like it's going to benefit us this year, next year, but the 5-year plan, in terms of what the city's going to look like to be a total walkable city with these repairs. So we might have to, work on, the long visibility, what it kind of looks like. I wish I knew somebody that had some skills to say, get kind of a diagram. And I know there's people out there who can probably pay, but to show what we have now, right, in terms of our sidewalk landscape. And then what it would look like, would it all be unified in ADA and everything to the T? So you have what we have now and what we're strong for, especially early on, because I think people might be more in tune to understand the long-term outcome, what you're looking for. Because sometimes people, want things to happen overnight, it doesn't happen. But in terms of what it will look like in 5 years, and also, let's face it, also, it's going to increase the property value. It could also decrease some insurance when your sidewalk is safe. Because I know that insurance company, they come and do your assessment and your sidewalk isn't up to par. That's a liability. You're going to pay more in insurance. So it could save the homeowner some money in terms of with the improvements. So, okay. Well, I guess anybody else? Anybody from the public? Any thoughts, Mike, on online?
Not currently online, but I do have some thoughts myself.
Okay.
So one item, Vicky, around a point of sale program. There are examples of other municipalities, mostly in California, that do that, but they require it from the seller to do it before they can issue the deed transfer.
Yeah, that would be nice. too.
So, and I think that works better economically too, because the seller is presumably in Hudson also receiving some, income by the result of the sale and can use part of that income to do the work that's necessary.
So in order to have this done, do we have to, the legal committee has to create this law?
It would be beneficial, yes, to have legal.
So Margaret will. Margaret.
The other item that I want to address, the mayor, common council president, and our legal counsel met with the Department of Justice last week about an extension to the ADA settlement agreement. We have a draft of that right now that is currently being reviewed by Crystal and Andy. One item that is on that extension agreement is that it is partially contingent on the council passing legislation for sidewalk improvement districts.
Okay,
So the timeline of that we have to negotiate, the understanding that DOJ wants things to move quicker than maybe is perhaps possible, but I did just want to put that on this committee's radar that it will, any extension that we get from DOJ on addressing the sidewalks that provide a connection to municipal services, to City Hall, to the police building, to the fire department, et cetera, is going, that agreement is going to be contingent on us passing.
So you think, Mike, that when we establish the districts, do 6 districts, and one of the districts would be the districts that incorporate the DOJs, because that becomes a priority.
That is one way that you could do it, but I don't think it's necessary for you to create a specific district in order to prioritize the work that's needed.
Mhm.
Within each district, you're not gonna be able to address everything all at once, right? And so and the way that Ithaca has done it has been to have a priority list within each district and be addressing things on an annual basis based on that priority list within the district. So I think however the districts are arranged, what I would suggest and recommend and hope for is that the sidewalk corridors that allow people to access municipal services
Yes.
be the priority
Right.
within each district, if it exists, right? That may not exist in the.
Now, with the extension, did you include, I mean, it's not like we're, this is, either way, it's a slow process, no matter what we're trying to do. But include, the letter that, we put out there is, to.
They're aware of our communications, yeah.
To the public, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, something's, it's not like we're ignoring it.
Yeah.
It's just trying to figure out, how to make this work.
Yeah. I've been keeping DOJ informed about the process that we were going through, and also trying to, impress upon them the delays that have come because of COVID. There's a lot of work that we had hoped to do that just was not possible.
Right, yeah. And, money,
Right, of course.
so it's, again, I think you're doing a good job in keeping them informed. There's a lot of components to that settlement. And I think that you're touching on each one of them, you know what I mean, that, between Oakdale, and I don't know what their expectation, would be and how quick something like this, I think at one point, I think Troy got, I think they had everything supposedly in play, and I think they're back at it where DOJ is knocking on their door again because, whatever they did didn't fall through with some certain things. And so now they're DOJ stepping up the game in Troy, with the heat, so, but thank you for the follow-up. Thank you. So, anyone else? I guess not. Well, there's no more questions or thoughts, we'll reach out. I'll get a hold of Ryan to let him know his contribution, and I'll let Margaret know. And
So Dominic, why don't we try to set a meeting with Peter and Rob?
do what?
Me and you, we should try to set a meeting with Peter for the next
Yeah.
month.
Yeah,
So
let's
to
let's get it. Michael, where's the best way, place to get a map that we can enlarge of the wards? Is that board election or?
Probably, I'll have to do some of that. You want a printed map?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if anything exists where the sidewalks, if it was Google map, do we do a Google thing and then try to transpose it?
You want like a satellite?
Yeah, so we can see, I mean, at least in general, what, where the sidewalks are, what we can eliminate in terms of no sidewalks. I mean, we're gonna know.
I think that's gonna be hard to do. Most probably I just would like to have an enlarged map of each ward.
Yeah, each one.
And then
Yeah,
I can figure out where there are sidewalks and when there, that's easy.
right, and
That's
then
easy.
as if we do each word, we can enlarge even more, right?
Yeah, that's what I would like to have, and then I'll go from there.
Right. Yeah, is that something Google could do, enlarge them like that, and then we can go to Staples and maybe enlarge them?
The only problem with Google is that the images tend to be very old, so it's their satellite. Usually they're could be anywhere from like 5 to 10 years behind, so that's the only problem.
So
Yeah, let me investigate that and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's nothing else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'm winking at you, Amber.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.